Okay, it says I'm live now. Okay. It shows I'm live here. Can somebody make a comment, chat there? Somebody write something for me in the chat window. I'm a little bit delayed here. The sound should be hooked up. Emma, okay, great. All right, great. Glad to have you here today. Just tell me hello, Kaylee. Beautiful. Anna, Garrett. Probably 15 to 20 seconds delayed. Okay, let's get started. So I guess I hope you watched the videos and worked on the problem so far. If you can just tell me what you'd like to work on here, we can start at problem 2 or something else. Just up to you. Just let me know. By the way, this is a public stream, so others outside the class may join us. They shouldn't be hurting us at all. Okay. All right. Internet connection doesn't look good. All right, I'm just going to start looking at problem 2. I don't hear anybody talking to me. So basically what you're doing here is you're going to want, what really helps you first of all in these things I find out is to look for excluded values. And basically that would be setting these denominators equal to 0, seeing what doesn't work. And so what we have is we have 3x minus 6 not equal 0. Then we'll have a common factor here of 3. So 3 times quantity x minus 2 is not equal to 0. So x cannot equal 2. And also we have x plus 9 cannot equal 0. So x cannot equal negative 9. So these would be what we call our excluded values. And then what we can do is just rewrite this and simplify as best we can. So we have x over, in the denominator, we make this 3 times quantity x minus 2. And then up here we multiply by, we just rewrite x minus 2. And then we have x plus 9. And so what it is, it's as if we put this whole thing under one division bar and just cancel whatever we can. So what we have is we have x minus 2 over x minus 2, which we cancel. And what we have is left x over 3 times x plus 9. And we see that x cannot equal negative 9. So, okay, any You want to go on to look at number 4? Any comments? Okay, I guess we can go on to number 4. I'm just making assumptions. I'm not seeing comments. Okay, basically, oh no, that was easy. It was too easy. Is 4? That was pretty. Um, you want to look at, is 4 too easy, or do you want to go on to 6? Okay, what would the hard problems be there, Garrett? Or want to go to 4? Want to skip 4? Go to 6? Or how do you what do you want to look at? By the way, this thing I don't want to go longer than 45 minutes on this. And if we don't get through all of it, hey, that's it is what it is. I have another live stream to start up at 11:30. Number 6, Hannah says number 6. Okay, let's go to number 6. Yeah, number 6. It's one of these deals that actually looks harder than it is. And so let's, again, I'm going to just use space over to the right, excluded values. And so what it is, our denominators cannot equal 0. So 4x cannot equal 0. So therefore, x cannot equal 0. And I find that doing these excluded values first can be helpful because it'll help us with our factoring. If x plus 3 cannot equal 0, x cannot equal negative 3. And then also we have x squared plus 4x minus 77 cannot equal 0. And so what are your factors of x squared plus 4x minus 77? Well, basically what you're looking at is you're looking for two numbers that multiply together equal negative 77, but when added together equal 4. And negative 77 doesn't leave a whole lot as far as possible factors, but how about 11 and 7? So if I put x, and I put 11, 7, because you can see how 11 times 7 equals 77. So this is a matter of really getting the plus signs right and minus signs right. So um, it's plus 4, so this 11 is your bigger number. So it's going to be x plus 11, x minus 7. So let's just set these factors, each of them equal to or not equal to 0. And so if x plus 7 cannot equal 0, then uh, x cannot equal negative 11. All right. And if x minus 7 cannot equal 0, then x cannot equal 7. So really that's going to be it as far as um, our excluded values. I'm just going to underline what they are. So just those 4, I guess. Oops, x cannot equal 0. So x cannot equal 0. X cannot equal negative 3. You probably should have a notebook paper for that. Where the heck do I get the paper? Yeah, the paper is, you really need to be working with notebook paper if you don't put a, uh, you didn't pick up a packet on Monday. So you just need to get out paper and write on this, I suppose. Yeah, Kaylin asks if it's a grade. Fair question. The thing about it is a grade hypothetically if we get these back by the end of the end of the 9 6 weeks and put them in. So what I want you to do, Caitlin, and everybody else, is just hold on to it. We will turn it in later at some point. The procedure has not been worked out for that. Okay, those are some good questions. And I'm seeing a lot more of you. That's really excellent. Okay, I'm going to go on now, and we're just going to rewrite these expressions here. And so here we have this. I'm going to write this one fraction up here, this one rational expression. Okay, x squared plus 14x plus 33. Let's write that in factored form. Okay, we'll take this next one in factored form. And then we have this last fraction here. We're just going to fill this in. So for this x squared plus 14x plus 33, we have x and x. And then we have your factors of 33. You really don't have a lot of choice on that. You're going to have 3 and 11. And you're going to see that if we make these both plus, they will work out because 3x plus 11x equals 14x. And then for this x squared minus 3x, we have x times quantity x minus 3. And then in the denominator for this last one, we already worked that one out, which was x plus 11 and x minus 7. And then in our numerator up here, for 8x minus 56, our common factor, we're going to try is 8. So 8 times what equals 8x, x. And what times 8 equals negative 56? Well, I think that's 7, isn't it? And so now we've factored everything. And so if we've done this right, we should be able to cross out stuff all over the place and have a very simplified answer. So we have, and now it's just like you put all these under one division bar. And so what we have is x plus 3 cancels x plus 3. X plus 11 cancels x plus 11. X minus 3, I don't see that canceled anywhere. But this x, right? We have x here and x here. We can cancel that and that. And now we have this x minus 3 looks like it's uncancelable. But we have this x minus 7 over x minus 7. And what do we have left? All we have left is 8 over, no, 8 times x minus 3 over 4. And 8 over 4 cancels to become 2. So we end up with 2 times quantity x minus 3. And so that should be it. I'm going to check on my. Yeah, so that looks good. Okay. So with that, we can just go on to number 8. Okay, now on number 8 forward, we start being asked about finding the quotients instead of multiplying. So what it's helpful to know in this instance is that dividing I'll just write over here, dividing equals multiply by reciprocal. Okay, so what we're going to do is we can rewrite this fraction, this rational um, division problem, as 5x squared plus 10x over x squared plus 2x plus 1, and we are going to multiply by the reciprocal of this second rational expression, which is going to be x squared minus 1 over 20x plus 40. Now what I'm going to do is, now we're going to go look for our excluded values. When we do our excluded values for division problems, we have to look at not only these two denominators right here, which we did on problem 6, but we also have to look at this numerator here. Why do we have to look at this numerator 2x plus 40? Well, the reason is because when we take the reciprocal, we're going to be dividing by that too. So we have to look at all these things I circled here for finding our excluded values. So the first one we're going to take is x squared plus 2x plus 1 cannot equal 0. And what are the factors of that? Well, they're going to be x and x, and they're all pluses. So what is that going to be? Looks like 1 and 1, right? So x plus 1 cannot equal 0. So x cannot equal negative 1. So that'll be one of our excluded values. Then we have this x squared minus 1 cannot equal 0. And what that's going to be is, that's going to be our difference of squares, x plus 1, x minus 1 cannot equal 0. So x cannot equal plus or minus 1. X cannot equal plus or minus 1. Well, we already had negative 1 excluded, but now we have x cannot equal 1 also. So that's another excluded value. And finally, we have this 20x plus 40. Well, 20x plus 40 cannot equal 0. And so that's going to be a common factor of 20 times x plus 2 cannot equal 0. So x cannot equal negative 20, negative 2, excuse me. Okay, that's going to be right down there. All right, that looks good. Okay, so now we have our excluded values, and now we're going to go about rewriting this in factor form. So now we have our numerator, 5x squared plus 10x, Our common factor here looks to be 5x. 5x times x plus 2. All right. And then our denominator, we have x plus 1. That's 20x plus 1. And then we have, for the right one here, we have x plus 1, x minus 1. And then our denominator, we have 2 or 20 times x minus x plus 2, right? So now we cancel stuff all over the place. And we have this x plus 2 can cancel out this x plus 2. This x plus 1 can cancel out this x plus 1. And so we have, I think that's all we can cancel out, isn't it? So in the numerator, we have 5x times x minus 1 over x plus 1. Now, if you don't have to multiply this by anything, but there's that 20, right? Where is that 20? Let's take care of that 20. We didn't cancel that out, so let's put the 20 here. And what is 5 divided by 20? Well, that cancels to 1/4. So we're going to have x times x minus 1. And that 5 was canceled out. And then we have left in the denominator 4 times 20x plus 1. All right, let's see. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. Okay, just chime in if you have any comments or questions. The last one I heard from here is Riley. If not, I'll just go on to number 10. Okay, for number 10, same situation, right? We're going to divide by the reciprocal, or multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to be equal to negative x squared plus x plus 20 over 5x squared minus 25x. And now we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is going to be 2x minus 14 over 2x, x plus 4. Now I see right now 15 watching now, which is fine. There are 36 students possible. I'm going to have this saved later, and I'll stream the replay of this later. Okay. Now, again, our excluded values, we have to worry about this denominator here, this original denominator, and then finally our new denominator, which is going to be this x plus 4 when we take the reciprocal. So, we're going to have we have 5x squared minus 25x cannot equal 0. And so our common factor here is going to be 5x times x minus 5 cannot equal 0. So x cannot equal 0, x cannot equal 5. Okay, so these would be two of our excluded values. We have this x plus 4 cannot equal 0. So therefore, x cannot equal negative 4. And then finally, we have this 2x minus 14 cannot equal 0. So we have, that's going to be 2 times x minus 7 cannot equal 0. So x cannot equal 7. So these would be just our excluded values here. And now to work out this problem here. Now this kind of creates a situation for us because I'm going to try to rewrite this x squared plus x minus 20 because that negative sign bothers me a little bit. So I'm going to take this negative x squared plus x plus 20. What that is equal to is negative 1 times x squared minus x minus 20. Okay, that's going to make our life easier. Okay, so we put negative 1 out here. And what are going to be our factors of x squared minus x minus 20? Well, x and x. We have minus plus. And so what do we multiply by? What is that going to be? Well, that's minus x. So I think that should be 5 and 4, right? So minus 5, x plus 4. And we factored out that minus sign, which is going to help us out. And next we write this 5x squared minus 25x is 5x. That's x minus 5. And then we multiply by 2 times x minus 7 and divide by x plus 4. And then provided we did this right, we're going to be able to cancel some stuff out. I see this x minus 5 canceling this x minus 5. I see this x plus 4 canceling x plus 4. And what we have left is negative 2 times x minus 7 over 5x. And I don't see anything else to simplify further on that. Now, if you found out that you're able to work ahead with me a little bit on this, I hope. Okay. Are we ready to go on to number 12? Okay, number 12 is a continuation. It's on the next sheet of paper. Those who went got it picked up. But Same sort of thing. Dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So we have for our excluded values, and we'll write them on the right. Excluded values. Okay, we have 3x cannot equal 0. So x cannot equal 0. We have x squared plus 2x cannot equal 0. So that would be x times x plus 2 cannot equal 0. So x cannot equal negative 2. And finally, we have this x squared minus 7x minus 18 cannot equal 0. So how do we factor that? Well, the factor for that will definitely have x and x. And then we ask the question, what multiplied together equals negative 18, but added together equals negative 7? Will that be 9 and 2? Yeah, I think that's 9 and 2, isn't it? Let's look at this 9 and 2. So looks like your 7 is a negative 7. That's a bigger number. So we put the negative with the bigger number there. And so we have x cannot equal 9. X cannot equal negative 2. So these would be our excluded values. Okay, we got the negative 2 up there also, and x cannot equal 0. We have 3 excluded values here. Okay, and then the rewrite. We don't have any pesky negative signs to deal with here. And we multiply by this here. And then let's just fill this in. The denominator with 3x. Here, this x squared minus 10x plus 9. We got a minus here and a plus. So we got to have a minus times a minus. And that's going to be 9 and 1. So x and x, 9 and 1. And so that's that. In the right one, we have x minus 9, x plus 2. And in the denominator, we have x times quantity x plus 2. Now we just go about canceling whatever we can. But what did I do? What did I not do right? Anybody catch me at that? We've got to flip these upside down, don't we? Okay, I hope you caught me at that. There we go. X minus 9, x plus 2. So now we'll be able to cancel stuff, I think. Here's the x minus 9, cancel the x minus 9, x plus 2, cancels x plus 2, and we have x and x. So it looks like we have x, all we have left is x minus 1 over 3. Let me check out that answer here. Yeah, that looks good. Looks good. All right, Angelica is asking a really good question about uh, finals. Angelica, we're not exactly sure about finals yet, and the way this is working out, I don't have scheduled for testing. I can't say 100% sure for yet. I'm kind of think probably at this point we may not. And that's kind of what it looks like to me. So that's the best answer I can give right now, Angelica. That was an excellent question. Okay. Adam says we most likely will. Well, we'll see about that. The problem I have is how fair is it going to be tested on things because I can't see you in class and give you the most. Well, we'll see what it is. If it is, if there will be a final, it's going to be appropriate to what you should be able to do. So what that would be. She'll put number marks for this question. I don't know about that. Okay, let's yeah, 14. These things here, what you're doing is you're finding a common denominator and adding them together here. So what I want to do is just out of brevity's sake, we're almost uh, out of time here. I don't want to go much farther. Let's just look at 14 and basically what we're 14 through 17 essentially are a review of what we did in 10.1, which is adding and subtracting rational expressions. So what we have here is that's going to be 1 over x plus 1 plus 1 over x minus 1. And so our common denominator, if you remember that, is going to be multiplying these two denominators together. So you have plenty x plus 1, x minus 1. So rewriting this, we have 1 over x plus 1. And to get our common denominator of this one here, we have to multiply the numerator and denominator by x minus 1, x minus 1. And I'm getting from Shilpa the second question, how many marks for this question? I don't understand the question. Sorry. And then we have here 1 over x minus 1. And what do we have to multiply by to get our combinator? X plus 1, x plus 1. So what we have here is 1 times x plus 1. So it's like we distribute the 1 here, right? So we have x minus 1 plus x plus 1 over x plus 1, x minus 1. And so that's going to be equal to x, negative x, and x cancel out. So we have 2x over point x plus 1, x minus 1. And so that's going to be it. And our excluded values, x cannot equal plus or minus 1. Okay, that's the excluded values. If I can spell excluded, that'd be nice. So anyway, really owing to time, that's really as far as I want to go. Now, the word problems later on, I worked out 15 here. 16 I didn't work out in the video. Don't worry about 16. These word problems are a little bit more complicated, so I don't want you to fret on those too much. So really, that's it. I hope this has been helpful to you. I'm going to maybe stop this. And I appreciate you taking the time to visit with me today. And you should be getting an assignment on Monday, similar to what we had last week. Section 10.3, solving rational equations. So anyway, that's it. Again, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for participating. We will see you soon.